Have you ever experienced a fight with a big fish and had memories through pictures to prove it? Out of all the components of fishing, nothing gives rush of adrenaline like setting the hook on a really big fish. To begin, my favorite hobby is fishing, no matter what kind of body of water it is or what type of fishing that I'm doing. Ever since I was a young girl, I can't even count the amount of times I tried to get it around in my hand. Growing up with a pond in my backyard created an opportunity for me to have my own personal fishing hole. Summers were spent all day outside, afternoons after school, even winters, just trying to get a nice big bass on. My fishing partner while I was growing up was my dad, and as I got older, he decided to buy a boat. Actually, it was already in the family, but we got to actually own it ourselves. So this opened up a lot more variety of fish that we could catch because we would take the boat in salt water. About a year ago though, my dad sold the boat, but thanks to my boyfriend, been able to get out there and find new places to fish and actually catch more species of fish. In addition, the meaning and importance of my hobby can be shown through physical objects. For example, I like to keep my fish hooks that I catch either my largest fish on or the first in a species of fish. After fishing for a while, and if I don't get any bites, I get a little bit discouraged, but my boyfriend always encouraged me to keep going. Actually, the other day we were fishing in a spot that we don't normally catch a whole lot of fish at. Probably in the worst conditions as well. There was 17 miles an hour wind blowing and the water was just really rough. But he proceeds to tell me that it takes a lot longer for the bigger fish to bite. Man, was he right. I decided to try a different lure. We were actually using live bait, we were using shrimp, but like I said, I decided to try a lure. He had just caught a trout on it, and I decided that, let's throw it out. So I just randomly casted it out, started reeling it back. All of a sudden, I would just sit there in shock because I got the biggest bite of my life. And I looked at him and I said, I think I just lost your lure. And he started to talk, but then I'm just holding the rod and the reel starts screaming. All of a sudden we see the fish jump. And he goes, "Oh, that's a big tarpon." And I was like, "No, that's a snook." The look on his face was just priceless. So we start reeling the fish in. It's the biggest snook in my life, probably 40 inches. He jumps off the seawall into the water, in knee-deep water. And I'm just trying to bring the fish to him. I didn't even know I had it hooked at first. So then the fish gets about 2 feet from him, and I'm feeling the line getting really tight, and the rod is bending really bad. So I'm afraid it's gonna break, but he's like, "Oh, it's not gonna break. Well, then I flipped the bail to let some line out, which was the worst mistake ever. I sliced my finger open, which is actually still cut, but the fish jumps one more time, spits the hook out. By that time I had closed the bail, and just, that's the worst feeling, is when you really lose a good one. We both looked at each other and I just kind of stood there like this. But I did get to keep the lure I used. It was a bait buster, and it was actually a purple color, which I also thought was odd, catching that big of a fish and on that type of a lure. I just thought the color was a little different in the water. But I will keep that lure forever because that was the biggest snook that my boyfriend has ever seen in person, and my personal best snook. And actually, I do have a prop. This jig head I've actually caught my first redfish on recently. I plan to print that picture out and put it in a frame, and then I will also put that hook in the frame with it. Furthermore, I've already learned a lot from fishing, some of which I can apply to daily life, like patience and not to get discouraged. So, patience. Catching a big fish really takes a long time, and maybe the spot you're fishing isn't right. So you could just recast it, and then hopefully you'll get another fish then. And then also, not to get discouraged. If you're not getting a bite, then, same thing as a patient situation. You can either keep waiting, or you can just recast it. Sometimes, making the right cast or working the lure a certain way actually takes a lot of learning, practice, and time. In conclusion, fishing may be overlooked by some people, but I feel that's because they don't have a ton of knowledge about it. People may not understand what fishing means to me, but like I said, some of the little things can have the most sentimental value, and I'll always keep my memories close to me. Recently, my boyfriend and I have decided that we're gonna hunker down and actually get me tying my own knots, learning how to work some different lures the right way, and hopefully handling some of the big fish. I look forward to it.